Hello, everybody, and welcome to another top 5 list with TheMKninja. This list is going to be a little controversial because of the subject matter, but you know what? I'm going with it because some things need to be said. Classic gaming is awesome, and I have plenty of good memories doing it. A lot of other people like me do, whether it be the 80s, the 90s, or sometimes you can even consider the early 2000s to be kind of classic gaming. I don't, but well, that's subjective. And so is this list. These are the kind of games that I still have fond memories of playing. I grew up with them and I still enjoy them. None of the games on this list do I dislike. None of them at all. That's not what I'm trying to say. These are the games that when I played them as a kid, I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. It was like the second coming for me or something like that. And then when I look back at them as an adult, I'm just like, wow. This isn't nearly as cool as I remember it being. It's still good, though. Like, a lot of the games I still think are good and can still be played today. But they don't exactly hold up when compared to things like newer releases or even newer versions of the game. And sometimes they aren't as good as we remember them being. So just remember this list is completely subjective. Some games that you think would be aged well I think don't, and some games that I think age well and I still think hold up today, like pretty much the original Crash trilogy and Team Racing and all the Spyro games, you think probably don't. It's just for those kind of games, I still feel mostly the same about them, and I still feel like they hold up in terms of my childhood memories and all that. The games I'm going to talk about ultimately don't. So with that in mind, please remember this is entirely my opinion, so please write yours in the comments below, but be nice about it. If you are not, I will delete them. So, without further ado, these are the top 5 games that everyone loves that I think haven't aged too well. Number 5. Crash Bandicoot 1. Don't get me wrong, I love this game to death. It's one of my favorites, and it almost pains me to put it on this list. But I played it again recently, and I can honestly say it belongs here. But, like, there's a reason it's normally left out of the favorites for this classic franchise. When people talk about their favorite games of Crash Bandicoot, they don't normally talk about 1. And it's because this game was a starting point, and it's pretty obvious. The sheer jump in overall quality from 1 to 2, graphically, level design-wise, and control-wise, is, like, even felt. You can even feel, wow, they really upgraded a lot. It shows Naughty Dog is now comfortable, while here, they were still learning the ropes. Some of the levels are a bit lame in design. The bosses are very forgettable, still kind of fun, but forgettable and way easy compared to the rest of the game. The controls can be a little frustrating and can aid to deaths unless you practice. Saving the game is a bitch, and it really got improved in the other ones. And the difficulty of the game, combined with the difficult saving, can be a bit much. I still think it's personally a good game. It's just not as good as I like to think it is. But I can admit that. Number 4. Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. I love Star Wars as much as a lot of other people, and I still think a lot of the Star Wars games of old, and even some of the new ones, are awesome. So I was inevitably one of the kids that ended up playing this game. I had fond memories of it, so I decided, hey, I'm going to play it again so I can relive my childhood, and I expected plenty of fun. What I got was very clunky and sluggish controls that were just annoying. Over half of the levels sucked. Really irritating and horrible boss fights that were too difficult because of these bad controls and bad level design, and a lot of other things that kind of break the game. And overall, a game that just did a lot of things wrong. It's not even that good of a game. It's not terrible. It's just that the first few levels are good, and the rest of the game is pretty bad. Sorry, but if you play it again, you'll find it is really true. Number 3. Goldeneye 007. I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this, probably. This game is one hell of a multiplayer game. It's still a ton of fun, I think, and I did spend plenty of time playing it with a few of my friends. But so many people have such fond memories of this game and still consider it like a Nintendo 64 classic. And playing it again, it makes me feel like nostalgia blinding is extremely powerful because, damn, the controls are quite poor. Like, pretty damn poor. Like they're pretty much as bad as Shadows of the Empire. So many of the missions in single player are thumb-breakingly frustrating because of poor level design or terrible AI. This is the game that makes people hate escort missions. And while the movie still holds up visually, the game just doesn't. It screams limited. Whereas other amazing Nintendo 64 games like Super Mario 64 I think still hold up visually. GoldenEye 007 is a decent game. It's just not as awesome as we remember. Number 2, Pokemon Red and Blue. Yes, it's so weird for me to put a Pokemon game here. As I've said time and time again, I fucking love Pokemon. And I love classic games. But I'm usually the guy that ends up picking on first gen to death. Even though I love the remakes. Does that make me redeeming enough? Okay, my reasoning is this. The game has this unpolished to it, with plenty of glitches and bad sprites that make it feel like the game should have been worked on for at least another month. Even though this is the game that started it all. It started Pokemon. And without it, I wouldn't have one of my favorite franchises ever and some of my favorite games ever. But the games have done nothing but get better. And X and Y and Oris are fucking fantastic. I mean, they've added new game features, plenty of new and wonderful Pokemon, new worlds, and the games have even gotten stronger storytelling. So it only makes sense that the first game will be left in the dust and would just be the weakest. Sorry, guys. It's pretty true. Number 1. Okay. Promise you won't hate me for this. Please, promise. Because this is my honest-to-God opinion, and if you look back, you'll find it is pretty damn true. I'm also cheating a little bit here, but these games are loved by many and considered classics. And when I'm going to say this, I'm going to go ahead and say the sequel is better. But looking back, I can't see why people consider these classics. I just don't know why people defend the Sonic Adventure games to death. I said it. People always call them the best 3D Sonic games, the ones that define their childhood. But I ultimately think that calling them the best 3D Sonic games isn't even close to true. I think the best is Generations did so much better. The adventure games have bits that are sprinkled in that are good, but it's muddled by plenty of bad levels, terrible voice acting, and strange design and sound choices that make it really annoying. You know, like when you're watching a cutscene and the music ends up making it so you can't hear anything they're saying. I love that, don't you? Plus, plenty of gameplay errors and glitches often make easy sections much harder than they should be, making you die 20 different times at almost the same spot just because they didn't spend a little bit more time making the game actually work. Yeah, I love that, don't you? Just passing through a wall and end up dying or something? Yeah, that's beautiful. They're just so unpolished, and the graphics don't even hold up that well. And it just feels rushed to me. And the parts people fondly remember aren't even half of either game. More like 40% of both of them combined, with most of that being in 2. And that's being generous. There are good parts of these games, like a lot of the Sonic and Shadow levels in 2, and some of the levels in 1, as well as the soundtrack for both games. But I just think these games don't hold up nearly as well as a lot of people think they do. And Sonic fans just defend them a bit too much. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. Also make sure to check out my supporters. All that great stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Peace out, suckers.